Hey, what's going on, YouTube? Listen, I'm taking a day off and just hanging by the pool, and nobody's here, so I thought I'd go over some scripts that I run. I make notes of these things, you know, like what do you say when you're calling a dealership? What do you say when you're calling a customer ahead of a driver? What do you what do you say when you're calling a load on central dispatch? So let's go over those three things. All right. Number one, what do you say when you're calling a load on central dispatch? Now, listen, you know, I'm calling to book a car. Hey, I'm calling Central. What I tell new dispatchers is, hey, I'm calling about a load on central dispatch. That way I said load, I said central dispatch. You could say, hey, I'm calling about a load on central. But you want to sound like you know what you're talking about. You want to be quick. You don't want to say, hey, yeah, I was looking at a car. No. Now, they want the order ID. So if I say, hey, I'm calling about a load on Central, the first thing they say is, what's the order ID? Know the order ID. Know where it's located. You can see the loads. So give them the load ID. Once you've said you're looking about a load on Central Dispatch and you give them the load ID, that begins the conversation. And now you can start fact finding. But again, that's another thing. If you call and say, hey, does it run and drive? Does what run and drive? What are you talking about? Right? I mean, what's the goal, man? Okay, so let's say you've booked the vehicle and now you're calling to make sure it's ready for pickup. You always want to do this. Don't just let your driver show up somewhere without calling first. Never do that unless you just have to. Maybe an auto auction, maybe something that you can really rely on, but a residence, every time you need to call before your driver shows up. Because either the vehicle's not ready or they're not home. It's usually they're not home. They're not expecting you, and you know they're out doing something. They have lives too. So when you call a residence, get the dispatch, call the phone number. You got the name, you got the address, you got the phone number. I always map it first. Go ahead and go to Google Maps. Take a look at that map. You want to see, is it near the entrance of the residence? Is it deep in the residence? Is it an apartment, a condo? Or you know, some giant mansion with a brilliant, huge driveway. You're going to want to know those things. So you call, say, hey, I'm calling ahead of the driver, and we've got the dispatch for the 2002 Nissan Versa, and I just wanted to make sure that I call ahead and make sure you're going to be there and get your schedule for pickup. So you need to verify that it is ready for pickup, that it is running, driving. Ask about the tires if need be. Ask them if they're thinking about putting stuff in the vehicle. You just really want to ask several questions so that they're comfortable with you, and also that you know things that maybe they didn't tell you, maybe they didn't think of. And if they ask anything real specific that you're not sure of, tell them to check with their broker, because that's actually what a broker does. Is a broker gets a car. A broker makes sure that a person transporting a car knows what they're doing and gets the car ready for the transporter. A dealership, you don't have to ask as many questions. A dealership, you could say, hey, I'm calling ahead of a drive. In fact, you're not going to reach dealerships a lot, but you do want to call ahead. Hey, I'm calling from 929 Transport. Yeah, we have the dispatch for the 2002 Nissan Versa. I've got Jim as a pickup contact. I believe this vehicle is a lease return. So you want to know, if you want to know what those kinds of things are, because they're going to say, well, oh, you know, you need to talk to service, you need to talk to sales, you need to talk to the general manager, you need to talk to the finance department. So you kind of want to understand that, you know, dealerships have departments, right? You might be talking to departments or a specific reason. You might need a release, you might need a bank receipt. So just know when you talk to a dealership that there's going to be some of this specific language. But it won't be as long and drawn out. You're not going to become friends. You're going to be on the phone for about 30 seconds just to make sure the vehicle is there, make sure you get their hours, and you might want to ask if there are special pickup instructions, somewhere to park on the dealership. You definitely want to check that for the driver.